Hey guys, it's KJ from the Scariest Movie Ever channel on YouTube. And the footage you were just watching is from a small village in India. About a year ago this happened, where some of the people started acting possessed. The people in the village said they thought they were possessed by ghosts. Basically, this was an example of a mass possession. The media, the mainstream, usually calls this mass hysteria. But I was checking out different footage from over the last year or so of many of these so-called demonic attacks, and I was really surprised at how many there have actually been. And that story from India reminded me of a story right here that just happened May 21st, 2016, so this was just a few weeks ago. Have you guys seen this story? Dozens of children from a school in Peru suffered an outbreak of what they're calling contagious demonic possession. Again, I was really surprised at how common this is becoming. There's actually another story attached to this one I want to show you. And then on top of that, I want to show you several other stories I found. Many of these have happened just over the last few months, and they all have to do with demonic possession. So let's check out this story first. It started about 3 weeks ago when about 20 children from the Elsa Pereira Flores school in Peru became violently ill. They displayed the same terrifying symptoms: muscular convulsions, some developing into full-blown seizures, fainting, vomiting, delirium, and frothing at the mouth. The children, all aged between 11 and 14, shared another unsettling trait: a shared hallucination involving being chased by a, quote, tall man in black with a beard who was trying to kill them. Since then, between 80 and 100 children from the school have been affected by what education officials there are calling a mass case of contagious demonic possession or interference. Video footage recorded at the school shows screaming children being taken by trucks to nearby hospitals. Other children are seen lying on school desks, surrounded by classmates and teachers who switch between comforting and restraining them as they wait for medical help to arrive. One of the affected students, 12 years old, said, "It's really disturbing for me to think about it. It's as if someone kept on chasing me from behind." It was a tall man, all dressed in black and with a really big beard, and it felt like he was trying to strangle me. My friends say I was screaming desperately, but I don't really remember much. A 13-year-old girl that was on scene and affected reported seeing several children from different classes all fainting at the same time. "I got really nauseous and started vomiting," she said. "I heard voices. There was a man in black and he started chasing me. He wanted to touch me." Another schoolgirl said she had trouble breathing and was desperately holding her neck as if someone was strangling her. According to her friends who say they witnessed the event, she kept screaming, "Take it out!" Initial reports suggested that the children had all been playing with a Ouija board in an effort to call up spirits that are said to haunt that particular school, which is rumored to have been built on land that was once used as a mass grave by the mafia. School authorities have called in a string of doctors, holy men, even exorcists. Since the outbreak began, several masses have been carried out by Catholic priests at the school at the request of parents, but so far nothing seems to have worked. Dr. Anthony Choi said, "We don't understand how this thing has kept on going. We know it started on April 29th, and now it is still happening. Now there are more than 80 pupils who are being affected." Elsa Pizango, whose 12-year-old daughter was one of those who became possessed, told the reporters that she fainted in school. They didn't say anything at the hospital. She just fainted, and she kept on spitting froth from her mouth. And just when you thought the story couldn't get any weirder, it does. There's more. As I was saying, there have been several different instances of things like this happening, in particular this kind of mass possession we've been seeing. It says here something similar just happened in a Malaysian school. On April 18th of 2016, a small group of students in Malaysia started claiming that they too had seen a, quote, black figure lurking around the school. Word spread, and before long as many as 100 people, mostly students, but also some teachers, reported having seen this figure or felt something supernatural or a heavy presence near them. One teacher actually told authorities she had felt a, quote, black figure trying to enter her body. It's interesting, they say that this figure is showing up so often that people are actually getting some pictures of it. And this right here is one of the pictures of the so-called man in black, or the shadow man, the dark apparition that's showing up at this school. And the story continues. A senior staff member at the Malaysian school told the UK Telegraph that our students are getting possessed and disturbed by these spirits. And as I was saying, there's a lot of these stories about possession that are coming out. And this one right here is from June 10th, 2016. Possessed woman terrifies bus passengers as she thrashes around, rolls her head, and shouts in, quote, satanic voice. Horrified passengers say the woman, who also vomited on the bus, looked as if she was possessed by an evil spirit. This is the disturbing moment a, quote, possessed woman terrified bus passengers as she thrashed around, rolled her head, and shouted in a satanic voice. The woman, who has not been identified, was captured on mobile phone video traveling on the public bus in the city of San Luis, central Argentina. In the footage, she can be seen rolling her head around in circles and yelling unintelligible things in a strangled, deep voice as she sits in her seat. At one point, a male passenger approached the woman to see if she was okay, but she did not seem to see him and continued moaning and thrashing around. Witnesses at the scene later reported that the commuter, who was also seen vomiting on the bus, looked as if she was possessed by an evil spirit. They said the bus driver was forced to stop the vehicle after frightened passengers pleaded to get off. The woman remained alone until police officers arrived and took her to the station. The footage of the incident was taken by a passenger on the bus and was posted online, where social media users remarked on the woman's eerie actions. As I was saying, here's another one from June 2016. Delirious, possessed woman rushed to the hospital as a devil voice within her says she is going to hell. The woman, named as Carmela, lurches backwards and forwards in the video as her eyes roll into the back of her head. This is the terrifying moment a delirious woman believed to be possessed by a demon spirit shakes violently as friends desperately try to calm her down. The woman, named as Carmela, can be seen lurching backwards and forwards on a stretcher as her eyes roll back into her head. Another person in the ambulance, dressed in white and speaking in Spanish, attempts to wake her by clapping and calling her name. But she replies in a very hoarse, quote, demonic voice saying, she is going to hell. As a woman off camera begs her to stop, the voice continues, this girl doesn't exist now. It doesn't exist. Those in the ambulance are left puzzled by the bizarre sequence of events, with one even asking, is she giving birth? In the same strained demonic voice, Carmela, who is hooked up to an intravenous drip, replies, my father is coming for him. He is mine. He is for me. The terrifying incident was captured in the back of an ambulance as it sped to the hospital with its siren blaring. It comes after surveillance cameras in a supermarket caught a woman dropping to her knees and screaming amid claims she was possessed by a demon. And then here's another one from just a few months ago, March 2016. Teen, quote, possessed by devil, suffers violent convulsions in church after, quote, threatening to kill mom. A teenager feared to be possessed by the devil dropped to the floor suffering violent convulsions after she was taken to church. The parents of the young Honduran girl are now desperately asking for help to rid their daughter of these evil spirits. Disturbing video footage shot in Ellen Reyes Flores shows a 15-year-old girl rolling around on the floor and screaming aggressively. Two men attempt to hold her down as she kicks out her limbs violently. The mother of the teenager said the girl had left her a note threatening to, quote, grab a knife and kill her. She also revealed that she has to tie her daughter down as she sleeps. And once again, here's another one from March of 2016. Bizarre exorcism shows woman, quote, cured by priest after she was, quote, possessed by demon snake. This is the dramatic moment a priest performed a bizarre exorcism on a woman who is said to be possessed by a snake. The exorcism took place in Zimbabwe. Priest Teddy Bantu led the ritual, promising to rid the woman of her inner demon after she confessed her terrifying experience to religious leaders. He then begins the exorcism by shouting into a microphone while pushing his hand against the woman's head. Immediately she begins to fall backwards, unsteady on her feet, as the priest continues chanting at the snake to get out and to leave the woman's body. Eventually the woman drops to the ground, where she lies on her back as a member of the congregation covers her with a blanket. Another man approaches the woman and sprays her face with a liquid as she shrieks and convulses, apparently in pain. Priest Bantu finally shouts, "In the name of Jesus," before the room falls silent. He then holds the microphone near the woman's mouth and asks her who she is. When no answer comes, he concludes, "The spirit has gone, you are free." And again, here's another one from 2016, this one from April 13th. Imam performs roadside exorcism on snarling veiled schoolgirl, quote, possessed by spirits. Another thing that's interesting about these stories is that these are happening worldwide. So this isn't just in one location. I think it's another great example of how this wickedness really is spreading all around the world. It says the unsettling footage shows a young girl in some distress as she tosses her head and growls from behind her face veil. The chilling footage shows an apparent exorcism being performed on a girl at the side of the road amid claims she was possessed by evil spirits. The young girl who is being cleansed in the ceremony is snarling as a man who is identified as an imam performed a ritual which is intended to drive out the evil spirits. The man was chanting over the girl as he sat cross-legged, dressed in white. She was wearing a full black veil with only her eyes visible and reacted violently to all of his words, which were a mixture of French and other languages, as well as rocking back and forth and fighting his hold on her arms. She was also rocking back and forth maniacally and holding onto his arms. She was making snarling sounds beneath her veil the whole time. She at one point stood up and attempted to fight with him, tossing her head and looking up. According to reports from the area, the subject is one of 20 different schoolgirls from Jean Lafave College in St. Louis on the French Indian Ocean island of Reunion, who had been suffering from these kind of, quote, fits and these screaming episodes. So the exorcism was reportedly performed by someone named Imam Ragwai in February 2016 on the island. Parents were concerned by the behavior of all these girls, but their college said it was unable to find anything actually wrong with them. "They are spirits," one of the students' mothers told the Imaz Press. "We often see spirits come on people, but it's always in specific locations. In a temple, for example, but not outside. Here it's not normal." But college principal Gervais Fontaine told The Independent, "Without anything tangible, there is nothing that can be done medically." A video showing a woman dressed in white wandering around the roads at night and scaring people has some believing she could be possessed by evil spirits. The footage was filmed inside the Colinas del Rey district in the city of Culiacan in the northwestern Mexican state of Sonora, where it was widely shared on social networks. As the vehicle approaches her, she sits next to the hood and then starts making a strange noise, causing the men inside to shriek in terror. She also makes her way to the driver's side window and makes a really loud, roaring noise. In the last part of the video, locals and authorities can be seen around the woman, who appears to be kissing a tree. The woman was never identified, but locals in the video called her Sophia. She is currently under the scrutiny of authorities for a series of different psychiatric exams. Here's another story of interest that falls right in line with what we're discussing here. This one's from January of 2016. Really weird story. Family arrested over woman's exorcism death in hotel room may have been part of a cult. The 5 suspects arrested after a 41-year-old woman died during an exorcism in a Frankfurt hotel may be part of a cult, investigators say. Public prosecutor told German media that they had still not determined what religion or church those carrying out the exorcism on December 5th were representing. Police arrested 5 suspects thought to be relatives of the woman, including 2 teenage boys, one of which is believed to be her 15-year-old son. Both the victims and the suspects are all said to be from South Korea. An investigating judge issued an arrest warrant for a 44-year-old woman, her 21-year-old son, her daughter 19, and 2 15-year-old boys. The woman was tied to a bed and beaten for hours, the city's public prosecutor announced. The five allegedly pummeled the woman's stomach and the chest in a bizarre bid to free her from the, quote, demons inside of her. In order to stifle the woman's screams, a towel was allegedly stuffed in her mouth and she choked to death. Her body was covered with bruises. It's not clear whether the woman requested the exorcism. Meanwhile, cops believe they have found a possible second victim in relation to the exorcism. In a house nearby, investigators discovered an injured woman. According to the prosecutors, she was suffering from hypothermia and dying of thirst. The house was reportedly rented by the alleged exorcists. Cops did not give further details on the casualties. So here's another story I wanted to share. It's related. Now this isn't from 2016, it's from October of 2015, but still within the last year, right? So it's a boy possessed by devil, kept chained up in church by his mom as he underwent an exorcism. A mom has kept her son chained up in a church to undergo an exorcism after becoming convinced he was possessed by the devil. The child's mother from Peru told local media that she was desperately worried about her son Danny, who was 12, after becoming convinced that he was possessed. She said that he behaved like an animal for 2 years, he could not speak, and would often run away for weeks at a time before he could be found and return home. She said, I took him everywhere I could think of, but they always told me there was nothing they could do, and I should take him home and look after him. But what can I do with him there? Every year he is getting bigger and stronger, and it was clear it was only a matter of time before he was too much for me. She said the last time he ran away, 4 men had tried to restrain him without any success. And that's another really common thing we see with these stories of possession. These people possess a lot of strength, right? Superhuman strength. She said she then turned to help from the local religious congregation, where he ended up being chained up next to the waste containers while members of the congregation gathered 3 times a day to pray for him. And miraculously, his mother claims that slowly they are driving the demons away. She said he can speak now, he can eat without throwing his food everywhere, and he's asking questions. But she added they still didn't think the boy was ready to be free, saying that during one recent relapse he snapped his padlock and had now been chained up again, this time with a stronger lock. The pastor at the evangelical church said, we have prayer sessions for him 3 times a day. There are 25 people who have been helped in the same way, and we are hoping to do the same for him. I have been doing this now for 17 years after God gave me my life back, and now I am repaying him by carrying out charitable acts in his name. Those being treated include people with epilepsy and drug addiction problems. Last week, a woman reported to be possessed by the devil let off blood-curdling screams as she was placed next to a glass cabinet of holy relics. Now here's another story, and this is from May 2016, and it definitely relates to everything we're discussing here. Specifically because I find a lot of people, when we're talking about these cases of possession, they want to say it's something else. Like the person's mentally ill, they're on drugs, it's bath salts. I've done another video in the past as well. All these different cases of possession over the last few years really rising. And typically how the mainstream media will always say, they were on bath salts or some kind of drugs. Now that's been debunked. I've debunked it and other people have as well, because many times they find out that these people aren't on drugs at all. But let's check out this story here. X reveals how to tell if someone is possessed by a demon and not mentally ill. People who appear to be demonically possessed may be mentally ill, and a priest who performs exorcisms has issued his guidelines on how to tell the difference. The deviations between those under the influence of an otherworldly being and someone with mental health issues has been laid out by Father Cipriano de Mio. Father de Mio, an exorcist of 64 years from Italy, says that prayer is the key to establishing what ails a presented person. The exorcist will typically say a prolonged prayer to the point where if the adversary or demon is present, there is a reaction. The unsettling reactions of a possessed person to the prayer, seen by the adversary as an enemy ready to fight him, can include facial expressions, threatening words or gestures, and other things, but especially blasphemies against God and Our Lady. According to the Catechism of the Catholic Church, mental illness and possession are very different. Exorcism is directed at the expulsion of demons or to the liberation from demonic possession through the spiritual authority which Jesus entrusted to his church. Illness, especially psychological illness, is a very different matter, treating this as the concern of medical science. Before an exorcism is performed, it is important to ascertain that one is dealing with the presence of the evil one and not just an illness. Father DeMeo has warned that all exorcisms are different, and the extreme training priests are required to undergo is their best weapon in dealing with the demonic presence expertly. He adds that his bishop has reportedly allowed him to host his own school for exorcists for the past 13 years. The church has blamed a rise in the occult for more cases of possession in recent years, and Father DeMeo says people must turn to God in such cases. And yet again, another story from May 2016. I really wanted to share this with you too. It's a great example of something we talk about a lot here on the channel. It's subliminal messages, occult messages, the language of symbols, things like this, and how practically everything in our world is inundated with this kind of a thing. The satanic symbolism or Illuminati symbolism, it's in everything now. And this story right here is an excellent example of that. Doom video game soundtrack contains hidden pentagrams and 666. One curious gamer has come across a devilish secret buried deep inside Doom's music. Let's check this out. Doom, the recent reboot of ID Software's demonic shooter franchise, has yet another hidden Easter egg lurking in its code. While it's now widely known that the game contains secret playable versions of classic levels from the 1993 version, one inquisitive player has apparently uncovered one more incredibly obscure surprise, and he posted his discovery on Reddit. Redditor Tom CB reports that he ran the game's soundtrack through Spectrogram software, which programs a visual representation of a sound's various frequencies, and he found satanic pentagram symbols in the number 666 and the resulting image. Check this out. Look at this. The world of music has produced a number of myths about certain songs which, when played backwards, contain creepy hidden messages. Now it looks like gaming is getting a slice of the action. There's been no confirmation as yet from the makers of the game, but the developers at ID have a significant reputation for planting various secrets and hidden references in their games. Manipulating sonic frequencies is certainly taking it up a step. There's a lot of truth right there in that. This is just one example from one game. I believe this kind of stuff exists in practically everything all around us, and it's all really coming out now. A lot of this stuff is really being revealed. So there really is a rise in this phenomenon. There really is a rise in what appears to be demonic possession. And it's not just happening in America. This is happening all over the world right now. Just considering the amount of stories I showed you from 2016, and that's not all of them. There's more, and there's plenty more in the years before this. But each year it seems to be growing more and more. This stuff is really coming out. And if anything, it's good to recognize this so you know what time it is, you know what season we're in. This stuff is really manifesting. So that's all I've got for you now, folks. Thank you very much for checking out the video. Take care out there, and I'll talk to you real soon.